Hello, this is Sal. In today's video, we will be talking about configuring DHCP using Cisco IOS. I will configure a router as a DHCP server and configure DHCP relay and also a router as a DHCP client. Then when we are done with the configurations, I will verify the DHCP and the connectivity. A dedicated DHCP server is scalable and relatively easy to manage, but can be costly to have one at every location in a network. However, a Cisco router can be configured to provide DHCP services without the need for a dedicated server. Cisco routers use the Cisco IOS feature set, Easy IP as an optional, full-featured DHCP server. Easy IP leases configuration for 24 hours by default. Our task for today's lab is to configure a Cisco router as a DHCP server to provide dynamic allocation of addresses to clients on the network. I will also configure the edge router as a DHCP client so that it receives an IP address from the ISP router or network. Here we have this topology. We have router 1 and router 2 with the networks, as you can see here on the side. We have a DNS server connected with on the network of 172.16.20.0/24. We have the ISP, which is our network is connected with this connection, and we have the internet here. So what I'm going to be doing is configure the router 2 to provide the network of 172.16.10.0 and 172.16.30.0/24 with IP addresses from the router. And as for this router, to get its IP address on this interface of gig 01 from the ISP router on the internet. I already configured the EIGRP 100 on the routers, and I'm gonna start with router 2 here to first I will configure router 2 to exclude the first 10 addresses from the router 1 and router 3 LANs. All other addresses should be available in the DHCP address pool. So here on router 2, enable configure terminal. First, I will exclude 10 IP addresses from each network. IP, DHCP, exclude addresses for the first network of 172.16.10.1 to 172.16.30.10.10. This is for the first network, and this network here connected facing router 1, and the second is this network here by router 3, and I will here 30.10 and to exclude from 30.1 to 30.10 and enter. Now we excluded 10 IP addresses on each network. Now I'll create a DHCP pool on router 2 for the router 3 LAN. I will create a DHCP pool first on router 2 for router 1's LAN. I will call it LAN R2. I will configure the DHCP pool to include the network address, the default gateway, and the IP address of the DNS server, which is this DNS server here. So back to router 2. Now IP DHCP pool, we will call it, as I said, LAN R2. Now the network for this network here, by router 1, which is 172.16.10.0 with /24 subnet mask, and the default router. This will be the interface here, the gateway of 172.16.10.1, and the DNS server, which is this guy here, the IP address of 172.16.20.100. So we are done configuring this side of the network by router 1. Now I will create a DHCP pool on router 2 for router 3 LAN here. The pool name will be LAN R2. Then I will configure the DHCP pool to include the network address, the default gateway, and the IP address of the DNS server. So back to router 2, exit from here, IP, first creating the pool, and I'll name it LAN R3 for the LAN by router 3, the network of 172.16.30.0 with /24 subnet mask for this network. And the default router, this is the interface or the default gateway for it on Gigabit Ethernet 01, the IP address of 172.16.30.1, and the DNS server 172.16.20.100, which is this guy here, this DNS server. Now, after we are done configuring the DHCP pools for the two LANs, I'll configure router 1 and router 3 as the DHCP relay agents, and then we'll set the PCA and PCB to receive their IP addressing information from the DHCP. So this is not done. If we go to PCA here and try to get the IP address from the DHCP server, it will give us an APIPA address here. So what we need to do is to configure a relay here on router 1. So how we do it, enable, configure terminal. The command goes like this, on the interface of Gigabit Ethernet 01. So Gigabit 01. So we want the network and the Gigabit Ethernet bit 01 here, it's default gateway. The network here, as many IP addresses can this network can hold to get the IP addresses through their this interface here. So we configured it interface Gigabit 01, and now the command goes like this: IP helper address, and we want the destination address, and it will be through this interface of 10.1.1.2. So now we will go to PCA and see if it will be able to get an IP address from the DHCP server. And sure enough, it got the IP address of 172.16.10.11 for PCA. Now going to router 3, we will do the same. Enable, configure terminal on the interface also of Gigabit 01, IP helper address, and also the interface of serial 001 and the IP address here of 10.2.2.2. Let's go to PCB and see if it can be able to get an IP address. And sure enough, it did with 172.16.30.11 for this PC here. Now, on PCA and PCB, I will set them to receive their IP address information from the DHCP server as I showed you. Now it's time for this interface for on router 2. We want this. The interfaces here they got their IP addresses. I'll show IP interface brief. As you can see here on the serial 001, this guy here, it got the IP address 10.2.2/30, and on the serial 000, this IP address here, and on the gigabit Ethernet 00, it receives this IP address here for the network where the DNS server resides. But in the gigabit Ethernet 01 is still unassigned. So we will go on the router, configure terminal interface of gig 01 IP address. This is how we configure the IP address for the interfaces. And the option we have here, either give it an IP address or allow it to receive it from the DHCP server. And by the second I type no shutdown, it will receive, and it received its IP address of 11.1.1.1. Now I will run this command, show IP interface brief, and showing us here on this interface of gigabit Ethernet 01, it received this IP address, and the status it's up and up. So let's try from PCA to ping the DHCP server, ping 172.16.20.100. And we received a reply. So let's try PCA to ping the Cisco.com server, ping 8.8.8.10. And we received a reply from the Cisco server on the internet. So let's try to see if we can ping PCB from PCA. Ping 172.16.30.11. And we received a reply from PCB. So our network is completely it's functioning as we planned to. So what we did, or what I did earlier before this video, that I built this network. I connected them, as you can see, configured the IP addresses for the interfaces on the routers, except for this interface here of gigabit Ethernet 01 between router 2 and the ISP 1 router. I configured also ERGRP between the routers, and then on this side also the same way how I configured the DHCP here on router 2 for these two networks, I also configured the ISP router with the DHCP server. So router 2 on this side of the interface will receive its IP address from the ISP 1 router. I hope if you like this video, if you learned something, please subscribe to my channel and share the video and give me a thumb up, and I will see you soon in my next video. As for this video, you will find it on the description. If you download the packet tracer, you will have this network, and the walkthrough documents, it will walk you through step by step what to do as whatever I did in this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.